What's up YouTube? It's Ben, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you all about the red flags of recruiting clients. Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel if you follow me already. Hey, if you're not in our Facebook group, link in description to Recruiter Empire. Definitely want to be in there. There's 10,000 recruiters in there, as well as myself. I answer your questions, tons of content in there. Click the link and join the group. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna tell you in this video is gonna save you a lot of time, money, energy, and headaches, okay? So definitely stick with me until the end here. All right, so everything in recruiting starts at the beginning, naturally, right? So number one, you need to be on the phone with the hiring manager. Hiring manager is defined as the person that's actually going to give someone an offer letter. If you are not speaking directly with the hiring manager or the person that's actually going to be above hiring, working with this person that you're going to be bringing candidates to, that's a red flag right there, because that means there's a middle person in between, and a lot of things can happen when a middle person is in between. All right, so another red flag about recruiting clients is if you get on a call with any recruiting client and you talk to them and you're about to sign a contract, but it just seems that it's not a high priority for them to fill this role. Like, they're totally okay with the role having been open for like 2 months. They're looking for the right fit, or they just don't care when the role gets filled type of thing. That is an absolute red flag. It means that they don't care about the role getting filled. That means they don't care about you getting the role filled. It's gonna be a waste of your time down the road. To give you an example, if they've had the position posted on Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever for that matter for like 3 months or beyond, and they haven't found a candidate yet, it means they're not taking the search very seriously, or they're not handling the candidates very seriously. Now, this is a partial yellow and red flag because it just means they could be really bad at recruiting, or it means they're not taking it seriously whatsoever. So honestly, take this as a grain of salt, but look at it as a yellowish red flag to begin with. All right, so this next one is a little bit weird, okay? But just stick with me on it. So if your client signs a contract after a verbal convo with you in like seconds or minutes, or like literally unhumanly possible right after you get off of the call and send over a contract, that is a slight red flag, okay? Here's why. Because that means that they likely have not read over your terms and conditions, aka your net fee, your net terms, your collection fee percentage, right? Or your guarantee terms. If the client hasn't read over these things and signed your contract, it means they're just light speed moving forward, but not actually reading the fine print, which is super important for us. All right, okay, so let's say that your client does sign the contract and they sign it within like 2 hours, meaning they probably read the T&C and everything's all good, right? So let's say you have your briefing call, which, by the way, parenthetically, you should always have a briefing call right after you sign a contract with a new client, talking about interview logistics, talking about how things are gonna move forward, how the submittal process is gonna go, all of that stuff, the feedback loop, everything, right? During this briefing call, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. This is generally where true colors shine, right? And those colors are either gonna be really green or probably red, okay? So during this briefing or onboarding call, whatever you wanna call it, after the contract is signed, you're gonna be going over things like interview logistics, diving deeper into the questions about the need for the client, and just overall how you're gonna be doing submittals, like how are you gonna send them in candidates and when they're gonna interview, all that stuff, right? There's a few red flags you wanna look for. If they're telling you communication-wise that, for instance, they might not get back to you if they just don't like a candidate, instead of telling you they don't like a candidate, right? That's a huge red flag. If they implore that you're gonna take their silence as a no, instead of actually communicating via email or otherwise that it's a no, that's a huge red flag, and probably a client you don't wanna move forward with. I mean, it could be salvaged, but that's not good communication at all. You would need to go ahead and correct them like ASAP and tell them, no, that's not how we operate. We generally get feedback in 24 to 48 hours after a submittal, so we can know if that candidate is viable or not. And with that being said, we need that communication feedback loop. And if you're not able to do that, then, you know, sayonara, right? So that's kind of how it goes. Communication is absolutely critical at this point, at all points throughout the deal. So that is a big red flag to look out for. One side note that you should look out for throughout the entire process is if you're talking to the hiring manager, the HR person, or whomever it might be that you're dealing with as your point of contact, and they don't know the job description very well, like they're kind of fuzzy on some details about the actual position itself, that's a red flag right there. Like if they don't know what they're hiring for and they want you to go find it, like that's a red flag naturally. Also, as I alluded to earlier, if that hiring manager, like the actual person that's going to be hiring and working with the candidate, right, isn't reachable, like if you can't connect with them and you can only connect with a middle person like an HR person or somebody that's outside of the realm, and they won't let you get to the actual, chief of whatever or director of whatever that's actually going to do the hiring, and everything has to go through that person, that's not a good look. It's definitely a really, really bright yellow flag, if not a red flag. Like the entire deal could still work out. Like you can absolutely work a deal out while working with the HR person, going through the HR person to the actual hiring manager. Like, yeah, that can work, that's fine. But it is a yellow red flag because ultimately you need to cut the middle person out, because so much communication, so much information, and ultimately feedback really needs to come directly from that hiring manager, and that's critically important. Okay, so let's say everything went well, you signed a contract, they signed it at a reasonable time frame, all that jazz, everything is looking good, right? But you're in process, you're sending in candidates and all that stuff. Let's say you sent in 2 so far, and over the next 2 weeks or so, they just stop communicating with you out of nowhere. All right, so boom, that's a huge red flag, because 1, it means possibly they've hired someone already and they're just not telling you because they're terrible at communication, or 2, they're not giving you feedback on your candidates, which is also horrible as far as, again, communication goes. I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse here with communication, but ultimately in life and in business, it is critical to success in relationships and business, everything. The way someone communicates with you is the way that they do business. And if they're not doing it properly, it's not gonna work. It's a red flag. All right, so let's say everything went good. You actually placed a candidate, they're working there. Now let's talk about getting paid. All right, so there's 2 ways this is gonna go, and only 2 ways: a bright green flag or a blood red flag, okay? There are 3 scenarios in which you'll get paid, right? You'll get paid right on time, that's perfect. You will get a delay of payment, let's say it's 2 weeks or so, or you will get a neglection of payment whatsoever, meaning your client will neglect to pay you for like 1 to 2 months, and you'll have to nag them forever and ever to get actually paid. Now, obviously, we don't know for a fact how this is going to go down when it actually goes down, right? Except for the fact that we can do some things proactively to prevent the red flags of this payment scenario, right? So keeping in high touch communication about the terms and conditions and the start date and the terms, the net terms, when you're going to get paid, how you should get paid at the end of the payment cycle, right? So towards the hiring date, all that kind of stuff, just making sure, oh, who's your accounts payable person, or who should I send the invoice to? Those are questions you should throw in just to make sure that you're gonna get paid on time per the contract. I have personally worked through all 3 of these scenarios, right? Getting paid on time, getting a delay of pay, or neglecting my payment where I needed to wait 1-2 months, but just send someone an email literally every day for 2 months straight to actually finally get paid. And it's a super red flag after the fact once you finally realize you're not getting paid in 1 to 2 months with that client. So obviously you'd never work with them again. Major point being here is that if you can keep communication open and clear with your client throughout the entire process, right? At every single step of the game, then you should be fine. Do not simply work with a client just because they sign an agreement with you. That's not a good enough reason, right? They need to be a good client. Like I've said in other videos, you should choose your clients, not the other way around. So don't just sign an agreement and work with a client for any good old reason, right? This all comes back to the same thing I said at the beginning of the video. This is all about saving you time, money, and energy, where you could be spending that other places making money with really, really good clients that aren't gonna give you red flags. All right, guys, so if you got any value out of this video, go ahead and tap that thumbs up button. Please be a part of Recruiter Empire, link in description of this video, and I'll see you next time.